Please, don't do that. My chocolate must never be touched by human hands. Please, don't do that. Don't do that. You're contaminating my entire river. Please, I beg you.
Welcome to the Trashcats Trashcast. I'm Richard.
I'm Steven.
And today we're going to sink into the warm waters in the back of our brains. Come with us as we Freudian slip back into the nonsense we call our subconscious.
That nonsense subconscious.
Goddamn right.
It's going to be a surreal one.
Yeah, I noticed we love talking about brain stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's a fascination on our parts of, we just find it interesting, or if we're trying to fix something about ourselves. Maybe it's a deep repressed thing that we're trying to surface with.
A forbidden sexual desire,
yeah,
perhaps? Have you ever touched your brain?
No, but I imagine all the wrinkles would feel pretty dope.
Do you think they make squishy noises? Like squeak?
Absolutely. If they don't, I would be upset.
How cool would it be to take a tech deck to a brain and hit all those sweet ramps?
Dude, it does make the time off feel that much better. Today, in particular, was kind of rough just because it wasn't even, it's not the heat, it's the humidity.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a goddamn ocean out there.
Yeah.
It was just the air was so wet and moist.
It's been dreary here, and our yard is so overgrown. It feels like a jungle this week.
That's kind of cool.
It is kind of cool.
I like about my yard here is I do have a patch of like shitty grass in the front, like beyond the sidewalk kind of thing that I have to manage. But inside like the gate inside the yard, I really don't have grass. I just have a lot of like tall plants and stuff. So it's kind of jungle-ish on its own.
Yeah.
These big ass fucking trees. All the trees are so happy right now. I have all these maple trees and these elm trees in my yard the elm tree just started like leafing. I don't know what the right word for that is.
Just slurping up that water and leafing it right out. It's awesome. I love plants. I want more plants. All my plants are dying right now. But the sun's coming, so we'll get them out soon. So busy week, but doing okay.
Yeah. How you doing?
Good. I am okay too. Super, super burnout and tired. I feel like I'm living in a war zone right now because we are pet sitting for Sarah's mom. So we have 4 cats and a dog, right? And
nice.
Every night, at least one stray cat sleeps on the porch. And this week, I put it on Instagram. I had 2 cats and a raccoon all partying on the porch at the same time. Just hanging out. So
yeah,
anytime I go to the fridge, like at 2 a.m, I look inside, there's animals everywhere. I look outside, there's animals everywhere. And it is chaotic right now. So we may hear a cat war at some point, but they're just hanging out. There's one behind the couch right now. I don't know what the hell she's doing. But yeah, man, I'm super tired, but doing okay. I mentioned trying to get a hold of that AI art system, the Midjourney.
Yeah.
I got into the beta this week.
Nice.
So I have some stuff to show you later. You would love it.
Okay.
It is really, really interesting. There are problems, and it is not quite as exciting as I would hope it would be for what I wanted to use it for. But dude, it is amazing, and it's really interesting. It works through a Discord server, so you can't create privately, and in theory other people can take what you're making too. So it's like a big open workplace, and it's crazy though. What people are making is some beautiful shit. I'll be able to send you an invite, so I'm looking forward to playing with that with you one of these days, because it's pretty fucking crazy.
Nice.
So I was fucking with that a little bit and dealing with the animals and just trying to get some art shit done in between podcast stuff, but just kind of grinding through this
Hell
week.
yeah.
Yeah. Any honorable mentions?
No. No, I do not.
I got a couple. I'll do super quick. This first one we listened to as our warm-up, our intro song warm-up. Mm-hmm. This is an old one by one of the best electronic acts, the Chemical Brothers. I've watched most of their videos, but somehow I missed this particular video, Star Guitar. It's incredible.
Yeah,
it's so
very cool.
It simulates being a depressed person riding on the bus or as a passenger in a car, just putting your head on the window, watching the landscape, and then like you get a happy or hopeful song like on your cassette player, and you just kind of bop along looking out the window, and there's a particular effect, and I don't want to give it away, that something happens and you don't realize it right away. And when you catch on to what's happening, it's just it's a magical, beautiful feeling.
Very cool video.
It feels so simple, but it gives you a feel. So cool. So that was kind of an old one. I just kind of rediscovered. That was super satisfying. And then the third season of, I'm going to mess up the name again, the Death Love Robots.
Yeah.
Yeah, third season just dropped. There's 2 episodes that are intensely good. The second episode of season 3 is so fucking cool. This pirate crab kind of deal. High intensity, very serious writing, beautiful animation. And then there's an episode later in the season that's kind of like a spin on the concept of El Dorado.
Okay.
And dude, the sound design is amazing. I'm looking forward to you watching it because I know as soon as you see both of those, you're gonna be so excited because they're so well done. That series is just so satisfying. I wish there was just so much more stuff like that. Definitely check that out on Netflix. And then last one real quick, there's a new documentary on HBO on George Carlin called George Carlin's American Dream. It's a 2-parter. I think it's 3 hours total, and it covers his whole career and development as a comedian, how he found his style, his ups and downs, his struggles with addiction, family life, and it's just so cool. He's just, he's
a fucking trip, man. He's definitely had his very unique style of presenting information, very quick, kind of fast paced, but you can tell very well practiced.
He would memorize every word of his specials. Like even the parts that are ad-libbed, he typically memorized the parts that seem like they're ad-libbed, where it's all like a recited thing.
Nice.
But he's like, every comedian's favorite comedian. And I especially in his older age when he was like full black pill nihilism. Fuck people. Man, it's just so satisfying. Especially as a depressive person, it's just so satisfying to hear, like, because no one else, especially then, but even today, no one else has quite captured that angry atheist, fuck everything mentality and still have this glimmer of hope and inspiration. And I don't know, just so cool. So that was really satisfying. That's on HBO, George Carlin's American Dream. But that's all I got. I'm looking forward to Freuding this up with you.
Yeah, man. Go Freud yourself.
All right, should we do it?
Yeah, man. So I can get into her.
Yeah, we talked about it for a while, but I know one of these days we're going to do a deep dive into Freud. But in the meantime, a brief introduction will suffice.
Sigmund Freud was an Austrian neurologist and founder of psychoanalysis, a clinical method for evaluating and treating pathologies in the psyche through dialogue between a patient and a psychoanalyst. Freud was born to Galician Jewish parents in the Moravian town of Freiburg in the Austrian Empire.
The world's most famous pervert, right?
Goddamn right.
Now, do you think he created the world's first your mom joke?
Oh, absolutely.
He was pretty far ahead of his time.
He gave someone the idea for it. If he didn't say it himself, someone else.
He gets beat up a lot for being so sexually obsessed in his work.
Right.
But I feel like all that flack isn't quite merited because the most important thing he did was develop psychoanalysis. Like that's really what the main credit should be. The idea of trying to discover more about a person's mind through talking to a doctor, basically. That was revolutionary.
You know, part of that being so open to suggesting the sexual nature of things, and also on theme of his idea of like the repression stuff, I feel like you could take that in a way of like maybe he was trying to cover up his own repression of the sexual nature of things the way he perceived them by being so open about it.
Projecting it onto everyone else too.
Yeah.
Because he's so
it's not me that's the pervert, it's you. But you're all perverts.
But he also was very open about his own perversions too.
Yeah.
Perversions, quote unquote. So some consider the human psyche as the most enduring theory of Freud's career. Freud published his personality theory in 1923, which hypothesizes that the human psyche is divided into three parts: the ego, the id, and the superego. And they all develop at different stages of our lives. It's important to note that Freud did not believe that these were physical entities into our brains, but rather systems of thought.
While the word ego is thrown around in popular culture much more than id and superego, the three are tied together. According to Freud, the id is the most primitive part of the human psyche. It's where our sexual and aggressive drives are based. The superego is our moral compass, and the ego is the referee, if you will, between the pools of the id and the superego. I've always liked to think, there's always been kind of a stigma that like, oh, all chefs are like, egomaniacs and stuff. And some of that's very true. A lot of it's very true. But I like to think that I've walked the balance of that. And a phrase that I came up with was ego is thinking you can do something. Confidence is knowing you can.
Yeah.
And it's not, the same way that ego is being referred to here, but in the way that most people refer to ego.
I think that's fair. Now, if you could only pick one of the three parts of your psyche, like one part eats the other parts, what do you go with?
I mean, I guess ego, right? I mean, I guess if we're going with the id or the superego, right?
I'm going with id all day, every day.
Yeah, I know. You're a lot more animalistic.
Straight lizard brain. I want to eat roadkill and follow my heart. I want to be cold-blooded and get warm on the sidewalks.
Yeah, I feel like most of my life has been... I have succeeded and gotten to where I am by not so much repressing that, but by not...
Eating roadkill?
Yeah, not eating roadkill. That's one.
Wow, how hoity-toity.
You know what? Here's what I will say. It's not that I've gotten to where I am now because I didn't eat roadkill. That's like it's a double negative. You can't prove that to be true. If I had eaten roadkill, would I be here? Possibly, maybe. The world may never know because I've never eaten roadkill. But
you've never taken a nibble?
Not even a nibble. No matter how fresh it looked, or if after a little while of seeing it there and it's dried out like jerky. Do you remember the hot sun?
For some reason, I associate this with you, and I don't know if there's any reason I do at all. Do you remember the ketchup plate?
The ketchup plate. Okay. Is this a school lunchroom thing?
No, not at all. So no. When I would do the graffiti of roadkill stuff,
yeah,
I found a really cool skull, right?
Okay.
On one of these outings at night. And I came back to the skull and I wanted to clean it up, right? This is before I became so enlightened that I realized collecting animal bones is cringe, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, I got this really cool cat skull or whatever. I'm like, sweet, I'm going to be goth as fuck and clean this skull. So I had a plate that I had 8 chicken nuggies off of, right? And it had leftover ketchup on it. And for some reason I couldn't find a bowl or something. So I had the cat skull on the ketchup plate. And I didn't really have like anything to clean it with. So I just had like I poured like a cup of bleach onto this skull
on a plate,
on a plastic plate with ketchup, and then I forgot about it.
As
like
you do.
2 months, and I found it one day, and the plastic had melted into the melted bone bleach and ketchup, and it was like a saucer of liquid. Like the plastic was barely holding up, and you could pick it up, and the whole thing just kind of like jiggled. It was the ketchup plate.
The ketchup plate. God damn.
It was pretty cool stuff.
Pretty cool shit, man.
And I don't know why, but I associate it with you. Because I think one day you picked me up, and I remember I almost spilled the ketchup plate and had to like run out the door.
That's funny because I don't think you've ever told me this before.
Isn't that weird when you like when John uses like art of mine for a song?
Mm-hmm.
I will subconsciously or preconsciously associate that piece of art with that person forever, and I might not even like know why or what exactly it is, but when I see that piece of art or I hear that song, I think back to like a bit of that person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that.
Little natural connection going on there.
Yeah, little spirit links. So Freud's work also ties these 3 elements of our psyche into the different human states of consciousness. While he didn't exactly invent the idea of the conscious or unconscious mind, he certainly was responsible for making it popular, and this was one of his main contributions to psychology.
Freud developed a topographical model of the mind, whereby he described the features of the mind structure and function. Freud used the analogy of an iceberg to describe the 3 levels of the mind.
Oh yeah, we're getting into that deep iceberg shit. So Freud described the conscious mind, which consists of all the mental processes of which we are aware, and this is seen as the tip of the iceberg.
The preconscious contains thoughts and feelings that a person is not currently aware of, but which can easily be brought to the consciousness. It exists just below the level of consciousness before the unconscious mind. The preconscious is like a mental waiting room, in which thoughts remain until they succeed in attracting the eye of the conscious.
Yeah, I feel like pre-consciousness kind of gets a bad rap. Everybody, that's one I forgot about until rereading these.
Yeah.
I like the pre-conscious though, because it feels special. What's just below the surface, but you're still have a sense of awareness.
I would like to take a quick moment to interact and say, if you hear purring or my microphone might get budged, I've been pretty good about it so far. My cat is walking back and forth on the desk, and I feel bad because I've been gone a lot lately, so I'm trying to give her some attention now.
See, you want to tell the audience to suck it up and deal with your cat noise. If that's my cat, I'd chuck her. Get the fuck off my desk.
Well, that's because you're home all day with your cat.
They drive me fucking nuts.
I miss my girl.
I love these cats, but oh my god, they need to get a fucking job and paying the rent.
So the preconscious is like you said, it's just what's just beyond your consciousness.
Just beyond the grasp of consciousness, but not sunken into the unconscious.
Yeah, exactly.
So the information that we can grasp without having to reach or go into the subconscious, that information would be described as available memory.
Mild emotional experiences may be in the preconscious, but sometimes traumatic and powerful negative emotions are repressed and hence not available in preconscious.
That's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder what more modern psych theory thinks of that, because I feel like
I think that still stands a little bit. Maybe I'm not sure how they feel with the preconscious idea in general, but I know that, like we talked about with the not dissociative, the one that I felt, the depersonalization stuff. That's, like a lot of that, if it's a trauma of some type, your brain tries to protect you from it by shielding you from it.
Yeah, I guess, but it's saying those powerful negative emotions are repressed and hence not available in the preconscious. The thing is I think that can be true, but all of this relies on the assumptions of Freud's systems of thought, right?
Right.
Yeah. It's interesting. I wonder how confident he felt. He always seemed, or is portrayed as, the type of person that was very confident in his ideas, where if you spoke to him, it wasn't, my imagination of it would be that it's not he didn't express it as like, these are my ideas of how these parts of our psyche and consciousness function. It always seems portrayed as a truth.
Yeah, he's like this is how it works.
Yes. And that's the part, I feel like anyone talking about these type of mysterious human nature questions that are super confident, there's a part where it feels like they're charlatans in a way.
Yeah, there's a lot of that, especially in the medical community stuff during that time, 1800s and late 1800s and anything before that, really. There's a lot of like, oh, no, this is how this goes. Like, no, I figured it out. This is different than it was. Like, oh no, to get rid of, oh, you're sick? Here, put some leeches on it. That's what you have to do.
Yeah.
And it's not, about like, oh, we think that this is the route. It's like, no, this is what you have to do. We know this for a fact. Where nowadays there's a lot more of like, there are different ways that you could go about this. We think that this method works best, but we're not totally sure, and everybody's different and reacts to it differently. And we're a lot more open to that idea that like, there isn't one solution all the time, every time.
I would have to imagine that people such as Freud, who were so focused on how consciousness works, how our inner workings of the mind work, they have to feel so disappointed by the lack of progress, right? Because I feel like today it's more accepted that we understand more of the physical structures of the brain, but that we know enough to know we don't know, right? That so many of these things are a mystery, that it doesn't feel like there's as much of a pursuit to understand the same way.
Right. No, we understand enough that we know, we understand that it does work. The how and why is, it's I think still better understood than it was before.
I feel like cognitive behavior therapy kind of, I don't know, that feels like closer to these like types of systems than most other, I don't know, psychology stuff. Anyway, finally, the unconscious mind compromises mental processes that are inaccessible to consciousness, but that influence judgments, feelings, or behavior. According to Freud, the unconscious mind is the primary source of human behavior. Like an iceberg, the most important part of the mind is the part you cannot see.
It's powerful.
What do you think of that?
Yeah.
That seems like trash.
Like I said a minute ago, there's some of that, it's where it may be somewhat true some of the time, or maybe even most of the time, but I don't think that it's always true all of the time.
Yeah.
I think that, there are a lot of there can be a lot of truth drawn from that, but I don't think that it's exclusively true to every single person the same way. And even within those people, that it's affects,
it just seems like trash.
Our feelings, motives, and decisions are actually powerfully influenced by our past experiences, stored in the unconscious. Freud applied these three systems to a structure of the personality, or the psyche: the id, ego, and the superego. Here, the id is regarded as entirely unconscious, whilst the ego and superego have conscious, preconscious, and unconscious aspects.
Okay, I like that. I like how it ties together with, the different elements of our psyche, tying or linking how they access the different layers of consciousness, right?
Right.
I like that. That's everything tied in a bow, and it sounds really good, but I don't feel like that can be remotely true at all. And I don't understand. I really don't understand how. Like, I like it as concepts, right? Mm-hmm. But I can't imagine being that smart and feeling confident that this is a system that actually makes sense. Like, if you approach it with any amount of, being critical or skeptical, it feels like nonsense, right?
Yeah, well, that's also the thing of it, is there's a lot of it that's subjective, right? So,
oh, yeah.
Yeah, you're kind of describing something that you can't see and you haven't seen.
But take the id, right? So he says the id is like reptile brain, right? That's, how did he describe it? The id
is their primal,
right,
like base desire kind of behavior.
So in his thinking, the id, or that primal part of our brain, would be 100% subconscious. Like, following his system, our primal elements like that are purely expressed subconsciously. He believes the subconscious rules most of our thoughts and actions. So, like, what would outright aggression, or like embracing animal nature, because that would be conscious action, but he attributes that to the, you know what I mean? Where there's so much overlap.
From what I understand, then that would be your ego is allowing your unconscious, your id, to not overflow isn't the correct word, but like to present itself more.
Okay.
So you are if you are making the choice to do that, then then that is your ego making that call.
That suddenly made me picture, like 3D chess.
Yeah.
The idea of stacked layers of colored glass, right? Mm-hmm. The idea, like, if the layers of consciousness are represented with pieces of stained glass, they could change order, but the color from one affects the ones below or above, depending on where your light is. You know what I mean? Like, they can project or illuminate through other layers. I don't know. That's just what popped in my head. You have to be really fucking arrogant, though, to decide this is how a human brain is, right?
and just to write all these books and tell people that this is how it goes. But the thing was, like, there wasn't anyone
else saying it.
Yeah, there wasn't anyone else coming up with these ideas about this, at least not that weren't coming out with them this hard.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate it. Like, it's so interesting. And all of modern psychology, it was essentially built upon it. These things had to be drafted concepts to learn or to explore the mind more. But man, I feel like as I'm getting a better idea of the scope of what he is portraying, it's just like, damn, you gotta be, a pretty big giant to, try to build, this mind castle so big, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
What a wild motherfucker. I forget if he had syphilis. Like, I know Nietzsche died
almost
from
all
syphilis.
of them. Almost all of them did. Especially during that time in the early 1900s.
I feel like Freud did drugs a lot.
Oh yeah, didn't he? He did a lot of coke, huh?
Coke and morphine. But I don't know about the syphilis. It'd be so interesting to know how much a sexual disease affects, like in a progressed stage where it's affecting your actual brain structure. I wonder how much that influenced his theories later on, or like sex drive, all those different aspects of what his consciousness looks like. I'd imagine advanced brain deterioration brings your id farther from the subconscious and closer to the ego. That layer of stained glass shines brighter onto the other layers.
I don't have any information on Freud having syphilis, but
he can't sue us, so I'm going to assume it's true and tell the world.
Yeah. Freud definitely had syphilis.
Definitely. And he gave it to your mom. So now that we got our terms defined by Freud a bit, we have established the various elements of the human psyche and all the different states of consciousness in which these psyches are linked. Now we can talk about one of Freud's more fun theories.
So one of his most popular phrases was from all of Freud's theories is the Freudian slip. He believed that the slip of the tongue, saying something we don't mean to say, reveals what we are thinking subconsciously. Freud debated this theory on the Freudian slip in his 1901 book, The Psychopathology of Everyday Life, and suggested that these verbal and sometimes written mistakes were rooted in unconscious urges and unexpressed desires.
Yeah, when we had been talking about trying to figure out the right topic, there was that recent news story of George Bush making that massive slip.
Right.
Oh my God, that was incredible.
In contrast, Russian elections are rigged. Political opponents are imprisoned or otherwise eliminated from participating in the electoral process. The result is an absence of checks and balances in Russia and the decision of one man to launch a wholly unjustified and brutal invasion of of Ukraine. Iraq, too. Anyway. 75.
I'm not laughing. And I'm guessing nor are the families of the thousands of American troops and the hundreds of thousands of Iraqis who died in that war.
Well,
gigantic.
Definitely. Oh my God. Furthermore, Freud believed that failing to remember something, like someone's address or name, phone number, was linked to our need or desire to repress it. Modern science has yet to fully explain why Freudian slips happen. That to me is the most interesting part.
I mean, it's just because our brains don't work so good, right?
But
so realistically, there are so many other processes going on in your head at once that not every lost memory is a compulsive desire to repress it. Sometimes there's just other way more important shit. And maybe if you sat down for a little bit and you tried to remember what it was, but, depending on, we've talked about memory a lot before. Maybe, at the time that you received the information, you were doing something or you were focused on something else. So that information didn't get stored the same way that it normally would have.
I think there's more with the repression stuff. Like we've talked about the frozen ice, right? Slipping, falling down the steps, those type of things. Where I've said before, if you don't believe you're going to fall and hurt yourself, it's still like possible you have an accident, hurt yourself, but it's different, right? If you don't believe you're going to fall, I feel like you don't. I think when you don't want to remember something or you're not putting that energy into, like you're doing something else, the focus isn't there, you're not listening to that information, I feel like there is levels of repression, and it kind of goes back to what level of cognitive thought do we attribute to the subconscious, right? If Freud's idea is that the subconscious it is the king of our psyche, then it would make a lot of sense that we have these subconscious slips or that we repress thoughts or memories. If you lean away from that thinking, it does seem a little silly, and like you said, could come down to more practical elements of the mind.
Now, I will also say that, especially with like misspeaking things, as someone who had a stutter for most of their childhood, and also just in even today and trying to read something to a script and fucking it up plenty of times, I feel like that's another thing that, like, it's not a repression thing. I know that there are lots of things that, like, the more you focus on a stutter, it's like it makes it worse because then you get nervous and stuff like that. But like the misspeak, I think, is less of a repression thing more than it is your brain, your mouth is moving faster than your brain is reading it, or you're still, you get stuck on something that you said, in the last sentence, and your brain is still trying to continue, but you're also stuck on that thing. So you fuck up something, or you read the text, above or below it.
Your brain is passing checks that your mouth can't cash, brother.
Damn right.
Now, have you watched, this is cheesy, but have you watched the movie The King's Speech?
No, I haven't.
You should actually watch that.
I think my mom did. I think she actually told me the same thing.
I forgot that was, like, stutter thing is something. I think we've talked about this. Did you go to any speech therapy when you were a kid?
Yeah, I did, like a couple times a week. And
did it help?
Yeah, absolutely it did.
Now, I have my own speech things, but I don't think I've experienced it that same way. Here's my question, because everything I've read or heard about it typically links it to what you were speaking of, like fast thinking or anxiety / lack of confidence. Those are like the two big things I feel like they tie it to most of the time. Do you feel like if you were to just consciously slow down, it would change? Or like what? I don't know.
No, that's exactly what I did. Was I had to slow down, and that's what I mean. You can hear it. I do it all the time subconsciously. Now that but I do it all the time. The little pauses to think about what I'm saying before I do it. Especially when I'm reading out loud, I read a lot slower than I normally would have before. I read it much slower than I can. You
just did it though. When I edit, I've noticed, I do my own shit. This is not a criticism at all. Mm-hmm. You pause, and I think you do it to like take a breath. You pause it's like 2 to 3 sentences with an and it's.
Yeah, no, I definitely have that.
But I know it's not that you aren't confident or don't know what you're saying. You use it as a form of pausing, like to slow yourself down.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, I do.
That, in context, that makes a lot more sense. Interesting. I think that's your little Freudian tell.
And what does it tell you about me?
It tells me you are speaking deliberately. But you're being...
Well, what am I repressing, though?
I don't think you're repressing. I think you're being careful. Because
I'm being careful. Maybe it's because I don't want to give away all of my dark passenger secrets.
Yeah, like if you're speaking loose, you're going to get more of the, not stutters, but the quick repetitions. Repetitions.
Repetition. Remix. The other one was that my S's and TH's thing. And that for sure, when I get like excited and I'm not really... I mostly have a grasp on that now, but When I'm get excited about something, or especially after like a couple of beers, that pops out for sure.
What does it sound? What's the sound?
It's just like, to use a word that we were just saying a minute ago, syphilis. Or instead of syphilis, I mix up my S's and THs.
Do you feel like it's a mind to mouth connection? Like
yeah, for sure. That's just it's just a thing that I probably did a lot growing up, and then
How do you do with typing? Like if you were
typing's fine.
I know you can type fine, but if you wanted to get your thoughts across very quickly, can you type or write out as fast as your brain?
Yes.
You know what I mean? Where you don't have to like do that mental pause.
Yes.
Right?
And for that matter, I much prefer text messaging to talking on the phone, mostly because I can take the time that I want to read as I go and check, I guess, my verbiage so part of it's like I want to respond the correct way that's going to come across properly, which isn't always important. Sometimes it's just like a okay or a heard or something. But sometimes it's also because I can respond, I don't know, more fluently.
Yeah. This is weird, and I've learned it about myself primarily through this podcast. I used to be God, these cats are sumo wrestling stairs. Like they're slamming into each other so hard right now.
Well, I can't.
But I used to be I was the kid who took the F in the public speaking class because I was not going to speak in front of anyone, right?
Yeah.
So I feel pretty confident in my speaking, and not confident in the sense I feel like I'm good at it. I just don't give a fuck, right? Like whatever.
Right.
You know, like this podcast compared to like other lights, I typically had tried to have myself seen as. It's such a like different facet, right? I never would have like previously put it out to the world, even if this would be how I am around like close friends, you, family, whatever. So I feel pretty confident with speaking, even if it's not good. But the part that's really strange to me is I kind of like the id part of me, the reptilian part, feels like when I hear myself speaking, it's like, what a fucking loser. Like, what an idiot. Like this is like some just lame shit. Not hearing myself. Like
so it's not during the moment that you think that of recording. It's afterward.
Yeah, it's more
You're
like
listening back to it.
It's more like the feeling I get around nerdy people, or when I say nerd, like people I don't like in the
LARPers.
real world. Yeah, like if you go to a gas station, right? You go to a gas station in Hood, and it's like there's the people that are street people where you're like, all right, as long as I show respect, I get respect, right?
Yeah, you just mind your own like, fucking business, and
yeah. And then there's like the super normies or like nerdy lame people, right? And those are the people that like the predator mind, the id mind is like, I could rob you and take everything from you. Yeah. Like I'm going to take your fucking purse and your car right the fuck now if you bother me at all. Like that aggressive part where you're like, that person's like lame and vulnerable to me. When I hear myself speak, that's how I think of myself. Where I'm like,
that's funny.
What a loser. Like, I could take everything from, you know what?
Yeah.
Like, it's just a feeling.
I feel that a lot too. And I think part of it's, so I do have a theory on that because I feel that's how I felt when we first started talking about doing the podcast was I know that I don't like hearing my own voice. They keep doing the thing again.
Voice.
Yeah. I'm a lot more aware of it now that we've said it.
Your voice sounds good, but yeah, it's
it's one of those things that when I'm in the moment and recording, it feels fine. When I'm listening to my own self, it's
free flow.
definitely feels better now than it did before. It just felt weird and phony and fake before. The thing I had, you had mentioned the public speaking, like speaking in class thing. And when I was younger, I definitely feel like I'm trying to think of the word for it, the confidence of your speaking abilities or my reading abilities, my confidence in myself was actually really high. I think I had a really good self-esteem, when I was younger. I had definitely had really good reading skills. So when we did like the out loud reading in class, I was always like ready for it. I still did the thing because of my anxiety. I would like kind of count the kids in class and then count the paragraphs down and figure out what I want to do, or which part I want to read. But there was still, I was fine with it, despite the lisp and the stutter. And even, I say stutter, but even then it really was never that bad. It would just be like little catches on, the beginning of sentences or something. But I don't know, I feel like the idea of when people say like, oh, it's just your self-confidence, and because I heard that a lot, and I was like, I don't think that's it. I really do. I think it's just the brain clocking at a different, multiple things at once, or not focusing on it enough, and your mouth is like in the process of doing a thing, and your brain's not giving it the information it requires. But that being said, that confidence after the fact of hearing myself, I absolutely feel that. Like, what a fucking square. Yeah, what a fucking chode up here.
and just to clarify, half the time listening, I think we're so much funnier than we probably are. Like, I enjoy it a lot of the time.
That is the other one, is because I do think our show's funny and good. To me, I'm not sure how other people take it. But
oh, yeah. But there's that slight animal feeling where you're like, oh my God, so lame. But I think instead of I have the like problem, but I've also noticed
Valley Girl Steven over here.
It's ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. But and that's part of the reason I typically edit most of it out now, is I feel like I speak my best when I'm smoking. Like in an interpersonal conversation, the act of smoking allows me to like distance myself from the person and withdraw into thinking a bit. And I feel like it gives me the balance of like forcing me to slow down.
Freud's got a lot of ideas on
sucking dick.
Yeah. Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar, but sometimes
other times.
If you ever find that your cigar is all the way down your throat, you may
Freud was right after all.
It may be something else.
That's funny.
That being said, he smoked a lot.
Yeah?
Yeah, apparently he smoked a fuckload.
Damn. So, all right, back to it, I guess. So, as George Bush was so kind to demonstrate this week, classical examples of Freudian slips involve stating the subconscious or preconscious without intending to, or sometimes not even noticing that the wrong words just flew out your fucking mouth.
Yeah. That was a lot. That was a lot to watch.
He said, right, that Putin attacking Ukraine, he accidentally calls it, I forget if it was, I think he said Iraq, right?
Yeah, well, he said something about the violent and unnecessary and the destruction, the invasion of Iraq, and then he corrects it and says the Ukraine.
And he played it off. Yeah. He made a joke. He's like 75. I'm 75 years old. Give me a break, kind of deal. And
yeah,
he did it well, but he
definitely just
while calling Putin a war criminal that should be prosecuted for war crimes, he gave the example of the war he led. Like, it's so fucking spot on. And he's
very on brand for America.
On brand for George Bush. Oh my God. He's got the funniest gabs out of anyone. What a fucking... Now, here's the thing is...
Put him on the blue collar comedy tour.
Yeah. That stupid Texas accent and he is one of the smarter presidents we've had in a while. That motherfucker is keen as fuck. He plays stupid.
Yeah.
Like, the people closest to him say that his form of speaking and how he acted in public was such a intentional deception. Like, he was very fucking smart, but he could play the idiot really fucking well.
Wouldn't you, if you were in charge of a group of people like the fucking United States of America, wouldn't you play a little stupid? And then if something fucks up, you'd be like, oh, but I'm just a babbling buffoon.
Babbling cocaine dealing cowboy.
I'm just an idiot. What do you expect me to do? You guys put me here.
I don't understand why, if you're the leader of the most powerful country in the world and you have like ideals of like you want brute power, you want to be able to bomb countries you want to be able to spy on any American, you want to have all of this like fartherment of control and lack of freedom, then why don't you just fucking take it iron-handed? You're George Bush, leader of the free world, and you want to bomb Iraq, Iran, you want to, like, I can't imagine lying about fake weapons or, like, creating the Patriot Act, shit like that. Like, why don't you just fucking do it? Like, half the country supports you so much
because
anyway.
then he wouldn't have gotten that second term.
I think he would, though. Trump would have. I think if they were more direct, I think they would get the same embrace.
I think they were pretty direct.
George was less so.
Yeah.
Trump was more so.
Yeah. He wasn't smart enough to hide behind the veil of stupidity.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm doing.
So, psychoanalytic theory of Freudian slips and the like also attribute meaning to these misreadings, mishearings, mistypings, etc., etc. Everything has a meaning behind why you did or did not make the mental connection.
Yeah, yeah. So one of the things that they attributed to the the ego, the superego, shit like that, was the mislaying and losing of objects, which
St. Anthony, pray for me.
Really, Tony, turn around, motherfucker. It's a pretty wild thought to consider that my brain is actively sabotaging me every time I can't find my keys. I feel like that's setting stuff down, losing shit is such a common enough thing for me. My dad is real bad at it. Dad, if you're listening, you know exactly what the fuck I'm talking about. He knows this motherfucker loses his wallet everywhere.
Did you get
his phone all over the goddamn place? And I think it's really just he's got so much other shit going on in his brain at the time. He's not, because he worries about like this is like the onset of dementia or something like that. And it's like no, you're highly intelligent and highly focused. There's just a lot else, other shit going on in your brain right now, other than, making sure that my phone's in my pocket before I leave this job site. Yeah,
John is the exact same way, right? Where you're like, you're a genius half the time and you're autistic the other half. So we had to get him those tiles.
Oh, yeah. Dude, I've looked into those. They're a lot more affordable now. I think I'm going to do that.
They're cheap. And, dude, he loses his phone or wallet. Let's say between phone, wallet, and keys, he probably loses them 10 to 20 times a week.
Oh, shit. That's bad.
Where he just can't keep track of shit, like, at all.
That's real bad. It's
hilarious, but I've never met anyone in my life who loses shit that often.
Yeah, that's brutal. I'm looking at rookie numbers compared to that.
And he's like running businesses, like making he's so smart, but like there's something
he's just got so much other shit going on.
That's exactly. He's just thinking about other shit.
Yeah. Fuck.
Now, I had this problem with, I'm pretty good at not losing stuff, but when I was using like Xanax, benzo stuff, everyone does. It's inherent you lose half of your benzos because you forget you ate them. Mm-hmm. But I always did think there was something to, like an element of your subconscious mind trying to protect yourself when you lose drugs, right? Because you're already so fucked up that you can't remember what's happening. Mm-hmm. And your brain is thinking, oh, I'm going to stash these so no one can take them. I know exactly where they're at. But you're already in a blacked out state where there's no fucking
you're
chance.
not remembering shit from this.
Yeah, and I almost think it's a way of like your subconscious knows like you should not do anymore.
It's like, I need to hide these from you. I need to hide these from myself.
Yeah, you think you're hiding them from someone else, but you're always hiding them from yourself. I always felt like there's something to that. But I couldn't be as bold as Freud to say, this is my subconscious, obviously ruling my whole form of existence.
It's my super ego is acting out upon my id by hiding my drugs.
I would love to hear what he thinks of that, though.
Well, he thought cocaine was a miracle drug, so
it is.
I mean,
cocaine.
I can't really argue with that one, but
it is.
I think it's a miracle that it's at probably masking things, but maybe not the cure.
The thing is back then I really think it was. Like, Adderall is stronger than most coke. And no one who does coke today in America, unless they have the direct connect, does coke at all. The clinic I go to,
all snorting, baking soda and fentanyl.
It normally has a little fentanyl in it, but it's mostly amphetamine. It'll be like 0.5% coke. But dude, the clinic I go to, right?
Mm-hmm.
They have there's hundreds of people that go there, and they have whole months at a time where no one tests positive for heroin, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, there is no such thing as heroin, right? Anymore in most places. Cocaine does not exist in the Midwest anymore. It is such a different tool than people think it was. Like, Freud and Nietzsche using cocaine it's so different.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be like taking a Ritalin prescription, you know?
But what happened to all the coke?
Freud got into it again.
God damn it, Freud. He's done up all our coke. God damn it, CIA, you turned it all into crack again.
Oh, shit.
So in 1979, a study investigated Freudian slips by having male test participants who had primed with a stimulus either related to sex or an electric shock to read a list of words that had meaningful spoonerisms related to both stimuli. Prime participants had a far higher rate of spoonerism related to the specific stimulus.
What's a spoonerism?
Reaction.
That's a radical word right there. So they primed people with something slightly obscene.
I was lying. I had no idea what the word means, but I made it up. Spoonerism is a verbal error in which a speaker accidentally transposes the initial sounds or letters of two or more words, often to humorous effect, as in the sentence, "You have hissed the history lessons," or "You have hissed the mystery lessons," instead of "You have missed the history lessons."
So they primed people with sexual words of a sexual nature or stimulus that they were trying to like throw them while they talk, basically.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Pretty cool stuff.
So Freud's theories deal with subconscious, right? We have these Freudian slips where we're dipping into our subconscious. But there's other alternative explanations, such as simple as it is just speech error, right?
Yeah.
Cognitive psychologists say that linguistic slips can represent a sequencing conflict in grammar production. From this perspective, slips may be due to cognitive underspecification that can take a variety of forms: inattention, incomplete sensory data, or just insufficient knowledge.
And I feel like that's more of like where a lot of my stuttering and misspeaks have always come from. It's just the cognitive thing.
That to me means it's...
Not to say there wasn't some, super ego shit thrown in there, or some id shit thrown in there, but...
To me, that means it's more malleable.
Yeah. This part I thought was really interesting, and this is still part of the alternative explanations, and it's more of like a way that people use to categorize a lot of these types of errors, these slips.
Yeah.
So it's framed in the way of like a human-computer interaction and the way that we work with computers, but in the context of interactive designs, slips refer to an incorrect action that is taken with the correct intention, as opposed to mistakes, which refer to an incorrect action due to an incorrect intention. Slips results from automatic behaviors that are triggered by external factors, distracting the user from carrying out their intended goal. There are many different types of slips in interaction design, including capture errors, description similarity slips, data-driven errors, associative activation, loss of activation, and mode errors. Now, these are really cool. The descriptions they gave here I think were really interesting. Capture errors occur when a familiar behavior takes over a less frequently occurring behavior. An example of a capture error would be driving to work on a Saturday when the intention would be to go to the grocery store.
Yeah, when you change your mental expectations, it makes it a lot easier for those errors or mistakes to slip in.
Yeah.
For sure.
When we first moved to this new house, I had a bunch of times when I would go from my old apartment, I would get on the road that we were going to take straight north, but instead I would turn onto the freeway that I would take every day anyways to go to work. And I would get on there and realize, fuck, I got to turn around. I got to get off the highway, turn around and get back on the highway to go back to where I was, because it was just my pattern of doing this. Every time that I pulled out of that driveway, I would be going the same way. So that fucked me up a lot. Here's another cool one. Description similarity slips occur when an action is taken upon an item that is similar to the one you intended. For example, flipping the switch for the bathroom vent fan instead of the light switch to turn on the bathroom light.
Those are some of the most frustrating. Like a band name, a painter's name, when you have two bands or painters that have similar names, and each time you mistakenly confuse one for the other, it makes it more complicated for your brain to re-separate them, and they get like cross-contaminated.
Yeah.
Like the concept of what they are gets confused more and more.
It's
harder to separate.
Yeah, I think the light switch thing is really interesting too, because I feel like no matter how long I've lived in a place, if there are two switches that are right next to them and you walk in the dark, and you know maybe the closest one to the door is your light switch, I just hit both, because I don't want to, I don't give a fuck enough to mess it up and do it, whatever. That's not always the case, but it definitely happened enough that it was like, all right, fuck this. I'm just going to hit them all.
Yeah. Take the red pill with the blue pill like a junkie. Yeah. Hit both light switches every time.
Hit both light switches and hit them all 3 times, and then go hit the other light switches in the house so that nobody dies.
Wash your hands and then pretty much,
the loss of activation is an error of executing an action, but forgetting the goal behind the intended action. A common example of a loss activation error is walking into a room and forgetting the purpose for walking into the room. Every kitchen worker has experienced this. You walk back into the walk-in cooler and you're like, why the fuck did I come in here for? And then you go back out. And I used to ask my employees, and I'd say, why'd I go in the walk-in? And sometimes they would remember. They'd be like, oh, we need this. Like, oh yeah, thank you. But most of the time they didn't know, and that's why it was funny to me.
I used to have that kind of feeling every day, like so often. But as my mental state has changed, I don't get that as much anymore. But that was that is like a short-term memory problem.
Yeah.
Like not always.
It's multiple times a day for most people in kitchens. And
I believe that. A
lot of the times, especially when I was in a position of like authority, which is most of my kitchen jobs.
You're juggling stuff.
Yeah, exactly. By the time that I go from the line back to the walk-in, there have been like 2 new things that I need to address in that pathway. And it's like, well, what the fuck was I doing 3 things ago?
You know what's been, I know we've talked about it privately before, but one of the most life-changing things for me, And I started regularly doing it in my early 20s, maybe, was always having a sketchbook or notebook to always be able to write things down.
Yep.
Because if you don't, it's gone. Like all in high school, I always had my sketchbooks. And then after I stopped caring about, didn't give a fuck about writing anything down. And then having a schedule, a sketchbook, a notebook, all or just one, just having something where you can keep yourself on track and know why you're doing what you're doing and when is like life-changing for me.
I write to-do lists for the dumbest of shits.
Yeah, same.
Even if it's like,
Every day.
Chores day, I'm just going to do, I'm going to take out the trash. I'm going to do the laundry. I'm going to, go clean the fucking bathroom and, change the kitty litter out or something. I'll write all of that down. And sometimes I gamify it.
Yeah, where I have a to-do list every day. I write it the night before. And most days, some days if I'm feeling depressive, it's just a straight numbered list, right?
Yeah.
But most days, the night before, I end up doodling and I draw I'll make the numbers into like a face and I'm filling in. When I finish something, I get a cross out or fill in an area and I'm like filling in a stupid doodle or I'm filling a percentage bar or filling in the stripes.
The percentage bar, I've done that.
Yeah. I most of the time throughout the day, like as soon as I finish something, I have to like edit the little doodle number system. And it helps me not hate my life.
Yeah. There was that I've done the percentage bar for sure. I've done what was the other one that I read somewhere that instead of calling it chores, like a to-do list, call it a side quest list.
Yeah.
That's just fun.
Sketchbook.
That's in my phone, in my, to-do list thing. I have the main quests, which are like important things that are like long running stuff. And, the main quest ones is like I need to do this today list. The side quest one is like, I want to paint the ceiling in this room and like, I'll get to it. So if I have a day where I have time, I can be like, well, what's on the side quest list? What can I do today?
We've talked about this before with taking notes, playing with fonts.
Yeah.
To keep it interesting.
Yep.
I do that a lot with the number list too, like to try to make it like, like a Japanese signature on a painting where it's like a stamp in the corner, like to make the coolest looking number system for my list for the day in different font styles and shit.
Now, what I haven't tried before, which actually might be fun, you said gamifying, and I was thinking of different examples of how you could really turn it into a game. And like
for each 2, you get candy. For every 5, you get ice cream.
You can set yourself
up. You get drugs.
If you do this one within a certain time frame, I mean, it can just even be like certain points. Like you get
a porn break.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Go jerk it real quick. If you do the dishes in less than 5 to 6 minutes, then you deserve a jerk break. Go do it.
Now, one thing I've learned is, all right, when you get to the percentage bar, you're in deep, right?
Yeah.
Because that means you have like 20 things to do because you're counting at least 5 to 10% increments. So
you can do it with 4 or 5 things.
That's a waste of a good percentage bar. You can come up with something funner than that. So I feel like the max I can do a day is 10 different things. Like I normally take an hour break after work, but I can't mentally afford to stop doing stuff until midnight every day from waking up, or I will want to kill myself. So I just have to keep going, and I don't want to. I'm tired, but I can't afford to not. But I know I can't do more than 10 things in a day, like roughly. Like, if I'm writing a to-do list with more than 10 things, I know I'm not going to do them all. And if I don't do them all, it wasn't worth making the list, and it feels like you're failing. Like, you have to have to beat the list.
I got to watch that when I start to get depressive, especially. It's like, I can't make my list too long because it makes it worse.
Yes.
You just give yourself, like, 1 or 2 things. Like, did you brush your teeth today? Good job. Did you take a shower? Nice work, Stinky. You did a good job. You did it. You're done. Go back to bed.
When I would be doing heroin stuff, I would write lists, and sometimes it would be like lists of pieces of art I like, or lists of movie, like obsessive lists, right? Mm-hmm. But I would write a to-do list with 300 things on it. Like every move for like the next 2 weeks. And like afterwards, it would be soul crushing.
Yeah.
Because it was like, I'm never going to do any of this. Like you feel so empowered when you're in that mode. And then later you're like, this is unfathomable.
Yeah.
I will never do any of this.
I do that with like, different like workout and exercise or like diet things and stuff. If I think like I get a wild hair at my ass and I'm like, I'm going to start, if I plan this out, I'll be more strict about it. I'll be better about it. I can do it. And in my head in that moment, it's like, yes, this all makes sense. This is all very doable. I'm like looking at my schedule for like, oh, for this day I need to be at work a little bit earlier, so I can't do it that day. Or maybe I'll just move it, later on the evening. And then, within a week and a half, it's like, okay, this is bullshit. This is not going to happen.
Yeah, it's all, especially with working out stuff and diet, it's all sustainability. What works for each individual person for their life, what they have, what they can do sustainable.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so hard to find the balance.
Let me get this last one here. I thought this is pretty interesting. Data-driven errors occur in the arrival of new sensory information that triggers an automatic response. So this explains the Five Guys phenomenon.
I am not familiar.
Oh, I haven't told you about the Five Guys phenomenon.
No, but I will say, I feel very aggressive about Five Guys. So I'm curious what you're going to say.
Aggressive in the positive or in the negative?
Negative.
Okay, that's fair.
For no reason. I just don't
they're all right.
I've ate their food and I don't remember it, but I don't like the name and it bothers me.
I've always felt like it's better than a McDonald's burger.
I feel like I have to fight Five Guys to get a burger.
Yeah.
That's when
it's definitely nowhere near that.
I'm like, Five Guys? Why isn't it Five Ladies?
My experiences have always been pleasant. But so here's the thing about Five Guys.
Okay.
When you walk in there, if you order a burger, they ask, what do you want on it? It doesn't come with anything. If you just order a burger and then, hand them your cash across the counter, that's what you get, a plain burger on a fucking bun. You have to ask for the toppings and they have a full list of them and you tell them, I want this, 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 and this. But, and I notice this a lot too in food service, that people will tell you what they don't want. They'll tell you, I want lettuce and onion and pickles. No tomatoes on it. I don't like tomatoes. But what that person hears is tomatoes. And sometimes they might check off the box for tomatoes because you're, one of 1,000 customers they're dealing with that hour. So check that off and they get to the next person. Or even if they put no tomatoes on there, they write it. The person making it, once again, it's one of 1,000 of them that they're making in that afternoon. So they're just gonna see the note for tomatoes and they're gonna grab tomatoes and put it on there. By bringing it up, by introducing the idea, you are making it worse for yourself. If you don't want tomatoes, you just simply never say tomatoes when you go in there. The last thing
you should ever say is tomato. Yeah,
right, exactly. It's the last thing you should ever bring upon yourself.
It's pointing out it's like that stupid Banksy gallery piece, the elephant in the room.
Yeah. When you bring it up, then it's all anyone wants to think about. You say no tomatoes, and they think this guy loves tomatoes. So so in that, I get it all the time where I ask people, one of the things that we sell, one of the options is, you can get honey or, honey and peanut butter drizzled on top of it. You get honey and peanut butter drizzled across it. And so we always ask people, would you like honey and peanut butter on that? And they say, no honey. And then I just go, what, peanut butter's okay? And they say, no peanut butter either. It's like, How come
you're a fucking idiot?
Yeah. Are you high right now? You could have just said no. because like I'm typing, I have a whole line of people behind them, and I have 3 things that I need to do.
Take that smoothie and spike it on the concrete.
Just
Tell him
get
to
the
fucking
fuck
never
outta
come
here.
back. Yeah, you're so fucking stupid. I don't want you to ever come back here, you fucking idiot. That's like, what a fucking loser.
Imagine this mom out at the farmer's market buying a smoothie for her kids. Get the fuck out of here. Just
Fucking go on, get.
yeah, just pull out salt. We don't have salt at the shop, but I just pull out salt from nowhere. Salt the snail.
Salt the snail. Go on, Gail. Get out of here.
Oh, God damn it.
God.
No, I do. I think it's funny that, it's just a thing that people do. Or they'll say like, we talked about our menu board already. We have all the ingredients that are in it listed on each thing. And people will say, oh, can I have this thing, this strawberry banana smoothie? And I say, yeah. And they said, okay. And no mangoes in that. And it's like, I don't have any mangoes in that. There's none listed there. And it's like, maybe sometimes is it an allergy that they're like specifying? Maybe, sure. But sometimes it's just like, oh, I don't like mangoes. And it's like, all right, that's cool. Thanks.
All right, here's a question.
I'm going to put extra mango in this now.
Do you have any Freudian triggers? Like you could be mid doing something, saying processing, and if you heard or like you had the right sensory input, it would completely like stall you out in your tracks, right? Like anything subconscious, you know what I mean? Like,
I'm not sure that they're Freudian triggers so much.
Oh, yes, they are. I created it.
I just mean I don't think that the example that I'm thinking of in my head isn't exactly Freudian stuff, but I know that during recording, sometimes when we get off on tangents about shit, you sometimes say the wildest shit that makes me pause in my tracks and think about life.
See, I'm talking like if I'm mid conversation with anyone and I heard the flute whistle from Willy Wonka, I forget who I am for like 15 seconds.
Because that pipe doesn't go to the marshmallow room, it goes to the fudge room.
You terrible man.
Like, do you got anything like that where you're like, like Mr. Augustus Gloop, where am I in the chocolate factory?
See, but like, well, here's the thing. It's like I feel bad for leaving you hanging out in the dry on this one, but no, I don't think I do.
I bet there's something.
I'm
like
sure there's something,
jingle.
but I'm not really.
I can't think of anything specific, but I feel like I mean,
like
I know certain sounds get me though.
Seeing a very attractive woman walk by while I'm taking orders on the food truck or something, that can be very distracting.
Sure.
I mean, but that's I feel like that's not I don't forget my name, It's like I don't forget where I'm at and what I'm doing. I can usually continue moving on with the day.
I do have certain things that can be so emotional triggers that will not from being distraught, but will mentally sideline me, where I know if this idea, this topic, this something related to this comes up, not that I feel beside myself, but it's like, all right, I know I'm not gonna like be thinking about what I was thinking about prior for at least a minute. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Have you ever considered that maybe in a past life you were an Oompa Loompa, and that's why you respond so
to Willie's
dramatically
whistle.
to Willie's whistle?
Anytime I hear Willie's whistle, something happens in me. I start eating candy. I black out.
You do like candy a lot,
dude. I fucking love candy.
I saw one of my customers the other day had these bright, like primary bright nails. They weren't like neon or anything. They were just like vibrant hues of each color. And I was like, those are cool as hell. It's like a fresh box of Crayola crayons. And she was like, I like to think of them as Skittles. And I was like, and immediately I thought of you. I was like, Steven fucking probably loves Skittles.
My buddy would eat your fingers right now.
Yeah. My friend would want to suck on your fingers.
Now, here's the question. Were they long nails?
No.
Okay. Because if they're long, I wouldn't want to eat them. I would want to break them off one by one till they're the normal length.
And then eat them.
Yes, of course. Like M&M's with the crunchy shell. I hate long nails. They drive me crazy.
You know what? I look at
Plus
it.
they're gothy.
I don't know. It doesn't really bother me that much, other than it does make me go like, how do you do it? How do you do it? And I know it's a thing like, with practice you get better at it, but it's like
heels.
Yeah.
Heels make me sad.
Sorry, what?
Heels make me sad. Like, you stupid drunk giraffe.
Yeah.
You just stumble. But I really do feel sad because I'm like, Sarah was going to wear heels this week. I'll put it on her so only she can be mad at me. Okay?
Yeah.
She was trying to wear heels this week. She doesn't normally wear them. And she ends up not doing it because it's like, it's going to be uncomfortable. But I'm like pleading with her. I'm like, I know you're going to be so sore. Your feet are going to be so sore. You're going to text me about how shitty they are. You're going to slip into shoes midway through the night. Like, why?
Yeah.
And it's only because, like, what other strangers think it makes you look attractive? Like, you don't even give a fuck. They're not making you happy. You're not doing it for yourself. That makes me sad that people want to wear them to look better for others. Like, it's so fucking dumb.
Yeah.
It's dumb.
Yeah,
I'm gonna fight my girlfriend later.
Yeah, kick her ass.
We had a podcast about you, and we agreed I didn't like when you tried to wear heels this week.
We agreed that I don't like this.
Stab me in the face with one of those heels.
I mean, granted, I think it's a good look. Obviously, it's
not.
I think it's incredibly impressive to see someone that wears them all the time and can run and do goofy shit in them.
Run?
Yeah. Have you ever seen a woman run wearing heels?
Okay, you have to be like, they look frail, like an injured antelope. They look unbalanced, like they're gonna fall. I feel like the general public in Michigan is a little more attractive than the general public in Cincinnati. Whoa.
So
that's probably true. But I mean, the whole thing is it extends the calf muscle, makes it doesn't look good. I don't understand the aesthetic of it. I'm falling apart. Maybe I have the willy whistle and heels. If I see heels, yeah, those are my Freudian triggers.
Good old Wet Willie's whistle.
Wet Willie's whistles, the wettest willies by whistles. Wet Willie's whistle warehouse.
The wettest willies. He makes sure your willie's nice and wet before he gives it a whistle.
For the best whistles. You know the Willie's whistles.
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Oh, yeah.
I can literally, you said it and I can hear it in my head.
I think I cried when I was a kid watching that movie for the first time because the nightmare boat scene.
Yeah, I think every
freaky.
kid fucking tripped out and cried to that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty fucking terrifying.
Well, we're doing big stuff over here.
We're really breaking down the walls of psychoanalysis.
This show's really falling apart over the last year.
Maybe it's a Freudian reaction to, we start getting deep into our subconscious and we start talking about, Willy Wonka and acrylic nails and high heels.
Okay, all right. Let's get to the real shit. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Oh, we're not there yet?
Real life Freudian slips. What do you got? You got any examples? You had to have made some stupid mistakes.
I'm sure. So, as much. Thanks for your vote of confidence.
Midway through that sentence, I realized how funny that was to say.
You probably fucked up a lot, didn't you? I'm sure, as much of my speech stuff that comes from cognitive stuff, I'm sure there have been slip. And so one of the examples that I ended up taking out of what we had written here was like, a woman walks up to a man. She says, "Sir, would you like bread and butter or a cake with your meal or something?" And he responds, "Bed and butter." And it's honest enough, like it's a misspeak and it doesn't necessarily mean anything, but
because she offered him cake and buttered bread, but what he really wanted was butter in his bed sheets. Bed full of butter.
So, but and Freud would have you immediately jump to the conclusion that this man has repressed sexual desires for this woman. Yeah, butter. And butter. Yeah, definitely can't cut the butter out of this one. So, I don't 100% think that that's all horse shit. I think that there are times when that probably happens. I think that it's far and few between compared to normal, just, when you say two words, you think one word, but you start to say another word, and then you turn it into a combination of both of them. I'm trying to think of an example, but...
You've never made any crazy bad Freudian slips?
So I feel like I definitely have. I can't recall any in particular. I do... I mentioned earlier also, I want to make a list of different times that I noticed what could be potentially a Freudian slip and write it down on my phone so that next week when we're here, I will have at least an example or a list, because I don't catch them in myself. And I think now after recording this and talking about it more, I will be more conscious of it.
Yeah.
So what about you?
So I have had one that has stuck with me, honestly. It was a weird learning experience and a strangely good example of my subconscious attempt, from my point of view, attempting to tell the truth. Okay? So I had dated this woman we know for 5 years, right? Broke up, super messy. I still really cared about her and ended up dating someone else that had a very similar name, right? And it was one of those things where anytime I was super fucked up for like the first 6 months we dated, I would say the wrong name. Like, not like during sex or like a single time, but like it was just one of those things. If I was fucked up enough, I just would start using the names interchangeably. Like when I was, because I was so fucked up too, right? And it was one of those things like early on, because it was like, the first time it was like, oh shit, like I fucked up so bad, right? But it was one of those things, she was super understanding, and it became a thing where after the first, like we talked about it after the first time, right? And then after that, it became a thing where without needing to have the conversation, with a look, we could both tell where the other person was, type of thing. Where she knew, like, we had probably started dating too early and I wasn't like over my shit, and like I'm sure it was upsetting to her, but she knew I felt like guilty for having made the honest slip. So it became like kind of a subconscious tell of like where we were in our relationship. And after, I don't know if it was 3 months, 6 months, or whatever, just, it stopped happening altogether. But their names really were super fucking close. So it wasn't so as bad as it sounds. But it was a thing where I don't know, I think subconsciously it was me trying to tell her where, like my head was at, and it allowed us to like, I think, navigate it better than if I solely repressed that subconscious desire and didn't have those conversations. Yeah, that was a scary.
Yeah,
one,
that sucks. Yeah, that's the guilt from that part probably sucked a whole lot.
Yeah, it was like this guilt, and then it was also too. It's like you're exposing something like that, like how you feel about a partner you loved or love type of thing. It's a very vulnerable thing to expose to someone else. You're trying, newly dating. You're trying to be cool and be a different version of yourself and be attractive to them, and you're exposing this like really raw part of who you are in a way you didn't intend.
Now, here's an interesting thing. I think I've talked about this, at least with you. I'm not sure how in detail I got about this particular aspect of this on the podcast, but I'm not sure how much of it was Freudian in nature. I was in a kind of really shitty relationship a while ago, and coming out of it, I did a lot of like, healing and whatever. I felt, took care of myself for a little while. And then getting into a new relationship, there was a lot of different little aspects I saw in myself that I didn't like, of like getting jealous over dumb shit, or getting, I don't know, somewhat attached to like time and being upset about like not spending as much time with someone as I wanted to, with them as I wanted to. So when, I would have those thoughts and those like things that like, hey, this is fucked up, I would go, wait. That's just shit in my subconscious that's telling me to act this way, because what I'm used to is bad shit. What I'm used to is someone's fucked up over here. They're not fucked up, or at least I don't have any reason to believe that they are. This is all on me. This is all on my own thoughts. So I ignored it. And I thought, I'm not going to act on this. I'm not going to let the jealousy shit take over. I'm not that kind of person, not that kind of dude. So, and I'm glad I did. Years later, some of the intuition about that was correct, and that I probably should have been. I was vindicated in being jealous of them going out and spending time with certain people, and some of their actions that seemed shitty that I just kind of took for like, whatever, it's not that big of a deal kind of thing, that realized like, no, absolutely it was exactly what I thought it was. The vindication of realizing, wow, I didn't trust myself. I didn't trust my inner monologue, my id. And it led to, if I had trusted my id, then I could have brought more realistic things to the surface, to light a lot sooner. But because I buried it, because I thought that it was, a negative thing coming from inside of me, like a Freudian thing, for example, then I don't know. It's not so much that I did myself harm, but I did myself an injustice by not listening to myself.
That's a fair way to put it. It's like the equivalent of wearing your heart on your sleeve. Like when you fully trust, your gut, intuition, whatever you want to call it. It makes you vulnerable in a different kind of way, but it also prevents those other things too. It's like living with brute force. Like if you would have been more, I don't know, expressive about your concerns, it could have it wouldn't have changed the outcome, right, exactly, though, because it's
So that's the one I at least I realized in that time, I'm not gonna not trust myself again. I'm always gonna listen to my intention on that, because I know that my intuition was immediately correct, and I denied myself that. Yeah.
Now here's a question I've been wondering. Right, I'm a serial monogamist, right? All my relationships are like 5 years. Now, I think because of something else, I'm not going to talk about it, but I feel like in a serious long-term relationship, I feel like if I got fucked over again, I think at this point I could not from anyone's specific, not my current relationship, not speaking to that, but I think I could emotionally detach enough to be like, fuck it. You know what I mean? Where it's like, hey, people suck. Things aren't what I thought they were. But I like, do you know what I mean? Where you can almost like mentally throw a person away, a relationship away, and be like, well, fuck it. I guess I'm going to enjoy the good parts. Yeah. And, it changes how I feel. That's kind of
where I landed after that most recent relationship ended was, I was like, oh, like all the walls that I had built up, and then I let all of them down again. And it's like, oh, I should have never let those down. So like I'm build them all up, build them back all up. So in the next case scenario, when when that happens again, inevitably when it happens again, it's like it's your boiling point, right? It's the point where of like, okay, what the fuck am I even doing? Like, why would I ever put any feeling or trust into this if I know that it's just going to keep fucking me over? It's not. It's a lot of anger, frustration, shit that comes out of that your id would tell you to react, to your baser desires, and would tell you to, like, well, fuck, why am I holding myself back from anything for if no one else is doing it, or if no one else is, that's the other one that I kind of always saw. I felt a lot growing up is like, no one's going to look out for you more than you. You should look out for you first, always.
100%.
And a lot of times when I'm in a relationship, I don't actually think that way. I put the other person ahead of me. And so like when like my girlfriend, whoever would, it's not that I felt responsible for their happiness or whatever like that. It was just more that like I would sacrifice small sacrifices, but still sacrifice my time or my, energy to things that maybe I didn't want to necessarily do. And, the trade-off is it's compromising, right? That's how that works and whatever. Anyways, my point being that regardless if you feel, I don't know, like I had felt when I thought that something's wrong here, instead of where I jump to immediately, this is probably reactionary from this last thing I was in. If I had really thought it through and like been open about it or talked about it more, I probably would have been more.
God, dude, you are a classic overthinker.
Oh, absolutely.
This is ridiculous.
For fucking sure.
You're like, if I would have just not thought over much about past thinking, I could have Sherlocked it into solving the mystery.
Well, that's that hindsight shit, man. And then you got to learn from it.
Yeah, for sure.
But on the other, what you started and then I went off on a tangent for. Yeah, I think it's the being able to detach from. Now, here's the thing. Do you think it's more that it's easier to detach now rather than, or it would be easier to detach rather than you are less likely to get close?
No, I don't think I can get close to any, like, people in general the same way I used to. But I was talking, one of my buddies, shouts out to my buddy, I don't want to specifically say his name, but I love you. I know he knows because he's one of our listeners, but his cat died, right? 17 years after he's had this cat, 17 years, they've been buddies, right? I love my animals to death, right?
Yeah.
But not really. Right? Like I wonder about it with, like, my family. Like, I think about it with my dad or, like, my brother passing. Like, someone really close to me. Like, that would really challenge me with that. But, like, animals that have died, relationships that have fallen apart, like that shit would like wreck me in the past, right?
Right.
But I feel invulnerable from anything. Like even though
you've felt worse.
Yeah,
you've been through it. You felt it all before.
I just, I expect people to die or let me down. And that sounds like so negative, but I'm grateful for the time I have, and I don't like believe in true love or like romance or whatever, like that deep like soul meld connection that I used to be able to have with friends or a partner. All that shit's just dead to me. So it's like,
yeah,
I just want to be able to spend time and be happy with someone, and I'm super grateful for that. But I also feel like I could be let down to an endless extent, and I'm not gonna let it hurt me anymore, type of thing.
Right.
So I feel really mixed about that, because this is a super psycho example, but one of my old shirts that I always wore, Cyclone 9 shirt, it had a gun diagram of a pistol on the front, and on the back it said, "Get a gun and let it guide you." Right?
Nice. Yeah.
And it was like, I always thought, like, Columbine shit, all that stuff, like, if I had an imaginary gun in my hand and I could just follow, heart on my sleeve.
First person shooter style.
Yeah, follow the id, right? And just take out everything I don't want in the world, and I could play God and put whatever I want in the world. Like, what the fuck? Who do I get rid of that day? Like, that's where my head was always at, right? And the idea of, I don't know, just following your subconscious to that extent, I don't know, like trusting that instinct. I don't even know what the fuck I'm saying. Like following the voice inside of a gun obviously is not the way to do that.
Right. Yeah.
But like knowing how you feel and letting it lead you through, I don't know, like subconsciously through your actions is very appealing to me. To like feel unshaken by how fucking stupid everything is, and just function on instinct is like super appealing.
Yeah. No, I recognize that. I feel that. I see that definitely more strongly in you than in me. And I stand by at the beginning of the episode, we talked more about like, you asked if you could, choose one to keep of your id, ego, superego. I still stand by the ego. I feel like, especially in the frame of reference that we got, that the ego is like the referee kind of between the id and the superego, and that balance part. I've always enjoyed that about myself, as I feel like I have a very keen sense of balance. And I think that overthinking this, like that lens to that, it's trying to look at it from every particular angle kind of thing.
So I feel like what we would need to do is we need to wife swap this idea a bit, right? So, all right.
This idea.
Yeah, you're going to take me up to your big glass tower spire of your castle where your big brain room is, and we're going to study rare archives, and you're going to teach me how to think like a real boy, right? and then we'll switch it up, and then we'll get a bunch of coke.
We'll take the stairs right back down, and we'll go outside to the storm drain outside, and we'll crawl down into your section of the.
And we'll ride through that storm drain until we get to the steamy forests of the exotic land of Detroit, and we'll run through the Detroit wilderness high on cocaine for a week, and
playing the Willy Wonka flute sounds. Just go hang out on fucking Zug Island and shit. Just industrial waste zone.
Dude, 3 Mile, right?
Yeah.
Dude, how cool would it be, though, to be able to have more active control over psyche access, though? To be able to, like, without, other mind-altering drugs, be able to affect, like a GPU, right? You're running Photoshop and you want to allot 50% GPU to id 50, like to break up your external hard drive space on your psyche.
I would be interested to find out how much I'm not really, if there are things that I'm repressing or stuff like that, because I feel like because I overanalyze shit, and I've been into psychology, psychoanalyst shit for a long time. I feel like I've kind of decoded myself a little bit.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there are biases that present themselves in that information of my own, because I'm the one that's selecting the information I see and the way I interpret it. But I feel like I'm figured out.
I think so too. What I would argue, as with any great man, we all tend to have a blind spot for like some part of our consciousness with women specifically.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Relationship stuff is so different. I think maybe in all other places you have that pretty figured out, but with
and I think especially when it comes to certain things like that, I think it's less of a blind spot. Well, I guess it's exactly a blind spot. I was going to say it's a perception issue. Mm-hmm. You see it from your perception rather than, you can try to put yourself in other people's shoes for that kind of thing, but like you can't get inside their head. Mm. So figuring out some of the two-sided interaction stuff like that makes it a little bit more difficult.
If you could choose to subconsciously repress or forget parts of yourself that like if you knew long-term, it would help you, right? That if like you had the God equation, that you knew if XYZ memories or parts of yourself could be forgotten or suppressed and it would make a better existence for yourself. Do you think you'd be willing to make that trade?
That's tough.
Like how much forgetting or denial of the heart on your sleeve, the id, whatever, like it is worth it, because I think there is a balance.
Yeah, there comes a it depends on what it is, I guess. It depends on how much, there are, and this is also, this is more of like a moral code thing that I've kind of built into myself, is that
your Bushido, if you will.
Yeah, my Bushido. It's the learning from mistakes kind of thing. I take a lot of pride into that because it's part of what makes living more fun, I guess, in a way to me, because
there's risk.
Yeah, well, you're going to fuck up. There's going to be mistakes. You're going to fuck shit up, and then things aren't always going to go your way. But what you stand to gain from that, you always stand to gain something if you learn from it. If you notice a pattern, if you analyze why this happened, if you whatever. So to take those experiences, regardless of how shitty they are, or regardless of how much you even might want to forget them, to take that away, I feel like it still does yourself a disservice in a way that, I don't know. Like I said, if it was just it's like a little bit of, like maybe I forget, the way my grandparents died, and like that helps me somewhere in life. It's fine. Sure. That one I'm cool with. Like, I don't need to think about that. That's, one of those things. But if it's, I don't know, like mistakes that I've made personally, I feel like that's different.
Yeah, this is one I've pondered before, and I can't figure out. I tend to get upset thinking about memory stuff. Because I spent so many years actively trying to forget shit, right?
Yeah.
And then with some time from that, I find myself craving to like have those memories back, right?
Right. Yeah.
Like feels like such big blank spots. But if I could shoot up some sodium pentothal and do a mind retrieval, right?
Yeah.
I would be very like upset or horrified by the shit I was trying to forget. Like it's not some things aren't meant to be remembered. Some are, and and that isn't. I feel like it's just not. I feel like right or wrong, what would be good for us or not, it's more just not meant to be our choice. Does that make any sense?
No, absolutely.
Where like I feel like there could be the things or the times, like the mistakes, the things that maybe we don't delete that mistake because we learned from it. Like I think there are the right answers, but we're not qualified to know what they are, just because it's too complicated.
That's fair.
Tricky business.
It's a good question, though. I really like that.
Well,
that's another thing I'm going to have to ponder when I'm laying in bed trying to sleep at night now. Thank you.
Well, when I was having sex with Freud last night, he told me to ask that question. So,
well, I'm glad you shared that with me.
I have a direct line, so maybe
we'll the ghost of Freud.
It's not a ghost.
Oh, let me assure you.
It is no ghost.
There's no ghost there, sir.
But yeah, we'll do some more Freud stuff. I like the psych ones, even though I'm sure we sound like big dummy babbling idiots sometimes.
Big stupid fucking hillbillies.
Yeah, we're growing our small brains into medium-sized brains, so
we think we know what the fuck we're talking about.
Oh yeah,
that's all that really matters.
Super smart.
We're two white guys. Or a white guy. I guess you're Lebanese. I guess that's white guy, right?
I'm saving that for the Butter Bear episode.
Okay. In America, it depends on the day. It depends on the season.
We have big racial issues to solve, but that's for another day. We can't do it all in one episode.
We can't fix the world in one episode, guys. You have to tune in. Thanks again for listening, everybody. Thank you to Approaching Human for the use of his music. You can find his work on SoundCloud at Approaching-Human.
Thanks, John. I like that audio sound design you're doing. It's pretty fucking crispy and very wet at the same time.
Ooh,
he knows what crispy.
I mean. It's like when you get a wet potato chip.
It's pretty weird. It's really cool.
Make sure to check out the show page at Trashcats on Instagram for news and arts from the show. Also, check out Facebook for the memes.
Yeah, check it out. We don't update it because social media has not been worth the time lately, but we're trying. We're trying. The episodes will always keep coming, though.
I still like how you say we're trying, but you're the one doing the work, and I appreciate that.
I stopped trying.
And I don't have the intuition or the care to actually do it myself. So
it's a hell of a combo over here. We need a manager. That poor soul.
That's what like you. I like to think of it though, like you're the worker bee doing all the work, and I'm the fat cat sitting up on just letting you do all the work while I show up and like put in my 2 cents and then clock out, and then you're not doing your work, and I'm like, hey.
And our manager,
this isn't getting done, and you're like, yeah, it's not getting done. I'm like, all right. Well, I'm not going to do it, so
like Charlie
I guess it's not going to do it.
Like Charlie in the mailroom trying to get these episodes edited. Our manager's
Pepe Sylvia!
Our manager's going to be a disheveled raccoon. Speaking of which, what am I doing? Facebook, I guess. If you're bored, you can check out my trash yard on Instagram at Skyzix, SKYZX. It's slow, guys, but there's stuff going up. And shouts out to our honorable mentions. Check out Chemical Brothers, of course, but specifically, go check out the Star Guitar video. It's that I really enjoy things that can give me a specific fleeting feeling in that video. I don't know how I forgot about it or missed it, but it's worth the watch. Star Guitar by Chemical Brothers. And then the new season of Death Love Robots, whatever the fuck it's called, on Netflix. Episode 2 is super good, and then it's like episode 5 or 6, the El Dorado-ish episode, is incredible with beautiful sound design. And then shouts out to our dear and close friend, George Carlin. May he rest in power.
God damn it. It sounds so incredibly insincere.
He definitely went to hell if hell exists.
Yeah. If hell's a real place, George Carlin is there for sure.
He's in the fairy kingdom of Jupiter, according to the documentary.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, he went crazy.
Sick. Yeah, I'll have to watch that.
It's so good. Really, I hope he rests.
Yeah, go ahead, say it again.
So
Say it one more time.
God, I'm so tired.
Say it again. Say it so we can close the show.
May he rest so peacefully.
That's going to be all for us today. Stay classy, eat trashy.
To the eternal whistle of Willie's whistle, George Carlin. Go fast, eat trash.